Have you ever watched your own child get hurt because some power-hungry neighbor decided rules trump basic human decency? What if the woman preaching safety from her clipboard was the exact person who ignored every warning and then blamed your kid for standing still? And how sweet does it taste when the quiet dad everyone underestimated turns cold, hard science into a weapon that rips her entire fake empire apart in public? Picture this. Willowbrook Haven Estates, one of those cookie-cutter American suburbs where the lawns are always perfect and the smiles are always fake. I'm Alex Rivera, forensic simulation engineer. I build 3D physics models for courtrooms, velocity, impact force, torque failure, the kind of stuff that makes insurance lawyers sweat and judges nod. I moved here 3 months ago after winning full custody of my 5-year-old daughter Mia. The brochure promised safe, structured, family-friendly. What it didn't say was that Vanessa Hargrove, president of the HOA, ran the place like a private dictatorship dressed in pastels and passive-aggressive emails. First week in, Mia wanted to bring her bright yellow float to the community pool. You know, the inflatable one shaped like a duck that squeaks when you squeeze it. Vanessa spotted it from 30 feet away and marched over like she was saving the neighborhood from a crime wave. "Mister," she said with that sugar-coated smile that never reached her eyes, "community aesthetic standards prohibit non-conforming visual elements in shared spaces. Your daughter's toy disrupts the curated calm we've worked so hard to maintain." I wanted to laugh. Curated calm? We're talking about a plastic duck, not graffiti. But I smiled, nodded, and logged every word. I'd learned the hard way after the custody battle. Never argue with people who weaponize paperwork. Mia didn't understand. And whispered, "Daddy, why is the lady mad at Mr. Duck?" I told her the lady was just enforcing silly rules. But inside I started watching. Every clipboard note. I saved them all in a folder labeled Vanessa's Greatest Hits. Because something told me this wasn't about floats. It was about control. Then came the day everything changed. June 17th, 9:11 a.m. Mia stood exactly where the HOA logbook required, 4 feet back from the automated gate while I signed us in. For seconds, Vanessa came striding up behind her, eyes locked on her precious clipboard, muttering about access protocol violations. She never slowed down. She never looked open with all the entitlement of someone who thinks gravity itself answers to her. The metal edge cracked straight into Mia's shoulder. My daughter screamed once, flew sideways, hit the water. I was diving before the splash even settled. I dragged her out, coughing, shaking, tiny arm already bruising purple. Vanessa didn't move. She just adjusted her sunglasses and said, in the calmest tone imaginable, "If your child can't respect clearance zones, that's not the association's liability." Right there, in front of 3 other parents who suddenly found the concrete fascinating. I didn't yell. I just looked straight at the security camera I personally begged the board to reposition 2 months earlier, the one they'd ignored. Because I knew what was coming next. Or with it. That same afternoon, the mass email hit every mailbox in Willowbrook Haven. Subject line: Community Safety Clarification. No name, no apology, just a paragraph blaming a minor child observed obstructing gate mechanism during peak ingress hours. They even attached a new rule reminder: minimum 4-foot clearance at all times. Mia's name wasn't mentioned, but everyone knew. By dinner, my neighbor across the street was already side-eyeing us like we'd brought gang activity to the subdivision. I sat at Mia's bedside in the ER while she slept, forehead bandaged for dripping. Her little hand still smelled like chlorine and sunscreen. My jaw hurt from clenching. Preemptive cover. They were building their defense before the X-rays even came back. I opened the HOA portal. Had been logged while Mia was still getting her CT scan. Parental negligence. Minor obstructing ingress. Pool access suspended for 3 days. I scrolled back through the archive. Lingering without purpose near lap lanes last week. Pattern forming. Forcing safety. She was erasing anything that didn't match her beige and boring fantasy of perfection. I pulled up my old email from April. The one I'd sent the board about the gate's hydraulic arm showing torque drift in warm weather. Recommend immediate manufacturer reinspection. Read receipt. Vanessa Hargrove. No reply. That night I started building. I fired up my proprietary engine, CourtForge, the same software 3 states license for liability trials. Loaded the gate specs, Mia's exact height and position from the footage I'd already requested, wind data, surface friction. Ran 500 simulations overnight. 93% showed the gate should have soft caught. 7% showed exactly what happened. Full force swing when someone impatient shoved it from behind without pause. Entitlement, not accident. Next morning a notice was taped to my front door like a scarlet letter. Household-wide facility suspension pending board review. Pool, playground, even the damn dog park. Mia couldn't run yet, doctor's orders, but now she couldn't even sit by the water and watch other kids. Vanessa was tightening the screws, turning my daughter's pain into leverage. Then the cease and desist letter arrived from her lawyer. Requesting footage and asking questions apparently counted as harassment. I read it twice, laughed once, the dark bitter kind that tastes like steel, and kept working. I drove to the equipment shed at dawn. Found the manufacturer plate. Apex Hydraulics, Colorado. Called them pretending to be compliance review. The tech remembered Willowbrook Haven. Yeah, we sent a recall advisory last summer. Torque failure in warm climates. They refused retrofit. Said it would disrupt peak season aesthetics. Signed refusal? Vanessa Hargrove, June 14th of last year. I had my friend Rachel at a Denver firm send the subpoena that afternoon. 48 hours later the document landed in my inbox. Her signature, her words, her choice of pretty gates over safe ones. Dark humor kicked in when I realized the pattern. Vanessa had cited Mia for visual disturbance with the float, then for lingering the day she finally swam end-to-end without stopping. Every citation came right after Mia did something joyful, loud, alive. The simulation overlay showed enforcement bias. 87% of recent fines targeted families with kids under 10. Statistically discriminatory if you squinted. I didn't need to prove intent, just the numbers. Numbers don't lie. By day 4 Mia flinched every time a door clicked shut. She'd stare at the pool fence from our window like it might lunge at her. That's when I stopped playing defense. I called in every favor. The camera's local cache using technician backdoor credentials I still had from a previous case. Crystal clear. Vanessa shoving, no glance, Mia standing exactly where rules demanded. Impact at 1.4 seconds. I synced it to the simulation frame by frame. Physics doesn't have feelings. I submitted the emergency board review request with a draft civil complaint attached. Vanessa's reply came in 4 hours. Form letter denying hearing. Classic move. Cut off internal appeal so they could claim I bypassed procedure. But I wasn't going internal anymore. I was going nuclear. The community hall smelled like old coffee and desperation the night of the emergency meeting. Folding chairs, harsh fluorescent lights. Every neighbor who usually hid from HOA drama suddenly showed up. Vanessa sat front row, arms crossed, pastel blouse pressed, smile glued on like it was nailed there. She thought this was theater. I didn't start with words. Gate swinging. Impact. Then side by side with the raw footage. Gasps rippled through the room. I clicked to the refusal letter, her signature blown up like a wanted poster. Aesthetic priority over non-mandated safety upgrade. Another click. Her email calling Mia's float, visual clutter. One neighbor actually laughed out loud, the nervous kind that says we all knew she was crazy. I let the silence stretch. Chart. Red bars spiking every time a kid laughed too loud or wore something brighter than beige. This isn't policy, I said quietly. This is personal. Daughter, her life. Vanessa stood, voice clipped and polite as ever. This is a gross misrepresentation of board diligence. Jonas, the vice chair who'd finally grown a spine, cut her off. We've reviewed the exhibits. Grove effective immediately, and accept full liability. 5 hands shot up. Vanessa's face went the color of old milk. She tried one last dignified line. You're letting one disgruntled resident hijack decades of community standards. Jonas didn't blink. Standards that nearly killed a child. Meeting adjourned. She stormed out. The gate that started everything. 2 days later she resigned from the HOA entirely and put her house on the market. Rumor says she moved to Arizona. Good. Perfect for people who run on hot air. The new gate arrived last week. Heavier hydraulics, soft close mechanism that catches even the angriest shove. Beside it they mounted a brushed steel plaque. In honor of Mia Rivera. Because safety isn't optional. Under shatterproof glass right at kid height sits Mr. Duck, the yellow float Vanessa tried to ban. Now every child who walks in sees it first. Mia still won't swim yet, but yesterday she asked to sit by the water and dangle her toes. Small progress. They scrapped half the old rules. No more lingering citations. They even renamed the new safety protocol, Mia's Clause. I smiled when I heard that. Not because I want her name tied to trauma, but because now it's tied to change. Look, if an HOA Karen ever tries to play God with your family, remember. Silence is their favorite weapon, but cold hard facts are yours. Document everything, run the numbers, and when the moment comes, don't yell. Just show them the simulation. And it always swings back harder than any gate ever could.